The galaxy was burning. Entire star systems had turned into battlefields where fleets clashed and empires fought for dominance. Every day new reports came from the front lines: destroyed colonies, shattered armadas, and billions of lives lost. The war had reached such a scale that even the bravest species began to doubt survival. To most, it felt as if the stars themselves had grown tired of war and were ready to fall silent forever. Among the countless fleets that filled the void, one event stood out. It began not with the roar of 1,000 engines, but with the quiet arrival of a single vessel, one ship. A lone human warship entered the battlefield, drifting through the cold darkness as if it had nothing to fear. At first, the alien commanders laughed. They saw the small shape on their scanners and dismissed it as a mistake. How could humanity, a young race compared to the great empires, dare to enter a war with only one ship? The enemy fleets numbered in the thousands, battle cruisers, carriers, dreadnoughts, all bristling with weapons powerful enough to destroy planets. And yet, out of all the fleets and alliances, the humans had sent only one ship. But something about this vessel was different. Its design was sharp and unfamiliar, with black armor that seemed to absorb starlight. Strange energy patterns ran across its hull like glowing veins. Its engines did not thunder like others. Instead, they hummed with a deep, steady resonance that made even nearby ships vibrate. The sound was not loud, but it carried weight, like a heartbeat echoing through the void. The alien admirals ordered scans, curious to study this odd intruder. Yet their scanners failed. Every attempt to read its systems came back blank. No power signatures, no weapon data, no crew life signs. It was as if the ship was a ghost, slipping between the cracks of technology itself. Still, the aliens were confident. Numbers had always been their strength, and they had crushed many enemies before with overwhelming firepower. A single human ship was nothing, or so they thought. The warship continued to advance, slow and deliberate. It did not answer hails. It did not change course. It moved straight toward the heart of the alien fleet as though the thousands of warships surrounding it did not exist. Nervous whispers began to spread across the comm channels. Soldiers who had faced countless battles suddenly felt unease. There was something in the silence of that human ship, something unnatural. It wasn't bravado, it wasn't arrogance, it was certainty. As if the ship already knew how the battle would end. One alien captain tried to make a joke over the fleet-wide channel. He said that humanity must have gone mad to send one vessel against 1,000. Laughter followed, but it was weak, forced. The captains laughed not because they found it funny, but because the alternative, that this single ship was a threat, was far more terrifying. The warship drew closer. Its hull shimmered under the light of nearby stars, and strange symbols glowed faintly along its sides, symbols no alien mind could translate. The closer it came, the quieter the fleets grew. The mocking voices faded, replaced by the sound of systems checking and weapons powering up. Entire dreadnought groups shifted position, ready to fire at a single target. And still the human ship did not slow down. Finally, the fleet commander gave the order. Surround it. Dozens of formations moved, their massive warships forming an iron wall around the lone vessel. It was caged, trapped in the heart of an armada that stretched for light years. Thousands of guns locked on, plasma cannons charged, missile silos opened. Against this wall of firepower, nothing could survive. The aliens believed this was the moment humanity's arrogance would end in flames. Yet the human ship remained silent. Its lights dimmed, its engines slowed, and for a moment it looked as if it had powered down completely. The enemy commanders stared at their screens, confused. What was this? Surrender? Malfunction? But then, deep within the void, something shifted. A low vibration rippled through space, reaching every alien vessel at once. Crew members clutched their heads, sensors blinked with errors, and comm systems filled with static. The human ship's engines roared to life, not with fuel, not with plasma, but with something darker. Its glow was not the color of normal fire. It was a light no one could name, a brightness that seemed to bend the stars around it. Panic spread through the fleets. This was no ordinary vessel. This was something else. Something built not for survival, but for domination. The commanders realized too late what had entered their battlefield. This was not a lone mistake, not an act of desperation. It was a test. Humanity had sent one warship, and if this single vessel could stand against thousands, then what would happen if more followed? As the ship turned its weapons online, a single thought echoed across every alien mind, from the lowest soldier to the highest admiral. The stars are about to fall silent. The alien fleet held its breath. Thousands of ships had surrounded the lone human vessel, their weapons glowing, their commanders waiting for the order to fire. Yet, strangely, no one wanted to give it. Something about the silence of the human ship was unnerving. It did not move, it did not speak, and still it radiated a kind of quiet power that made even the most hardened veterans uneasy. The commander of the enemy fleet finally gave the signal. Fire. A storm of plasma cannons, missile swarms, and energy beams tore through the void, striking the black hull of the human warship. Explosions erupted in the darkness, lighting the battlefield brighter than a star. For a moment, the aliens cheered. No ship in the galaxy could withstand that kind of firepower. But when the flames cleared, the warship still stood. Not a single crack scarred its armor. Its black surface glowed faintly as though the attacks had been absorbed, swallowed into the strange energy that surrounded it. Every alien eye widened in disbelief. Whole dreadnought groups had emptied their weapons, yet it looked as though they had fired at empty space. Then the human ship moved. Slowly it turned, scanning the fleet with beams of cold blue light. Each ship it touched shuddered as its systems flickered. Alarms rang across alien bridges, weapons jammed, navigation went dark. No known technology could cause this. It was as though the human vessel was looking into the very soul of every ship, studying, analyzing, memorizing weaknesses. "Shut it down!" cried one admiral, his voice breaking with panic. "Block the scan!" But nothing worked. Every countermeasure failed. Every firewall collapsed. The beams pierced their defenses like paper. The fleets began to argue over comms. Some captains demanded retreat. Others shouted to attack again, convinced the first volley hadn't been enough. But the commanders hesitated. Fear had crept into their voices. For centuries they had fought countless enemies, rebels, pirates, even rival empires, but none had ever made them hesitate like this. The human warship finally broke its silence. A single transmission echoed across the battlefield. It wasn't a message in words, but a sound, a deep resonance that vibrated in the bones of every living being. Some described it as a heartbeat. Others swore it was like hearing the hum of a storm before it broke. Whatever it was, it froze every ship in place. Then the ship powered up its weapons. The alien fleets watched in horror as sections of its hull opened, revealing glowing cannons that burned with unnatural light. They were nothing like plasma weapons or railguns. These weapons bent the very fabric of space, drawing in energy so intense that the stars around them seemed to dim. One alien captain shouted, "It's charging! Destroy it now!" A desperate barrage filled the void again. But this time the human ship didn't just endure, it moved. With impossible speed, it weaved through the storm of fire, its black hull flickering in and out of vision. It was as if the vessel wasn't bound by the same laws of physics. Finally, it struck. One shot. That was all it took. A single beam of condensed light burst forth from the human ship, slicing clean through an entire formation of alien cruisers. 10 ships vanished in an instant, shredded into glowing debris that scattered across the void. Silence fell. The galaxy had never seen such power before. Not even the most advanced dreadnoughts could destroy multiple ships with one strike. Yet here was a lone human warship, erasing fleets as if swatting flies. Panic spread quickly. Commanders shouted conflicting orders: retreat, regroup, attack again. But the human ship was already moving. Another volley and another dozen warships exploded into fragments. Entire wings of fighters vanished like sparks in the wind. The fleets tried to scatter, but their formations broke into chaos. The human warship was everywhere at once, moving with terrifying precision, striking targets as if it could predict their every move. Each shot was perfect, each kill clean, and still the vessel remained untouched. The alien soldiers felt something new, something they had never felt in war before. Not anger, not rage, but pure, undeniable fear. For the first time in centuries, the great empires realized they were facing something far beyond their understanding. Humanity had been silent for so long, hidden in the shadows of the galaxy, mocked as weak and insignificant. But now, with one warship, they had shown the truth. They were predators among prey. Whispers spread through the comms, whispers that no commander could silence. Soldiers spoke of ancient legends, of deathworlders who had once been too dangerous to approach, of humans who had vanished only to return with vengeance. And as the battle raged on, one thought echoed in every mind. If one ship could do this, what would happen if humanity sent more? The battlefield was chaos. Alien fleets that once prided themselves on order and discipline now scattered like frightened animals. Commanders shouted orders, but their voices were drowned out by the sound of destruction. Everywhere they turned, the human warship struck with impossible speed and precision. But what terrified them most was that the ship was still holding back. Every strike it had unleashed so far was clean, efficient, controlled. It destroyed only what it wanted to destroy, nothing more. Whole squadrons vanished in silence while ships just beside them were left untouched. It was as if the warship was demonstrating, showing the galaxy only a fraction of its strength. The alien admirals realized this too late. This was not random slaughter. This was a message. Then came the moment that silenced even the loudest voices of command. The human ship shifted, and its black armor split apart in sections, revealing something hidden deep inside. Glowing cores of energy pulsed along its spine, and strange wings of light unfolded like blades cutting through the void. The sight froze every enemy ship. They had thought they were facing a warship, but what emerged looked more like a god of war. The cores pulsed once, and the entire battlefield dimmed. Stars flickered. Energy readings across alien systems spiked to levels never recorded. Their engineers shouted warnings, reactors overheating, shields collapsing, weapons failing one by one. Then the first true volley came. 3 beams of light, sharper than any weapon in the galaxy, cut through space. The beams didn't just destroy ships. They erased them. Where once stood colossal dreadnoughts, now only dust and silence remained. The weapons bent reality itself, folding metal, fire, and flesh into nothingness. The crews of nearby ships screamed as their sensors went blind. Their commanders shouted for retreat, but engines failed before they could move. The human ship's strange energy fields twisted gravity, pulling ships off course, snapping them like twigs. One alien fleet tried to rally, forming a wall of carriers, and battleships hoping to block its advance. But the human warship simply rose above them, its wings of light spreading wider. It unleashed a storm of projectiles that defied explanation, tiny shards of glowing matter that moved faster than thought. Each shard locked onto a target, weaving between shields and armor, drilling straight into the heart of enemy reactors. Dozens of ships exploded at once, a chain of fire that lit the battlefield brighter than a sun. Yet even as destruction spread, the human warship glowed calm and steady, like a predator wasting no energy. Every move was deliberate. Every strike carried purpose. It wasn't fighting for survival, it was proving dominance. The alien commanders began to understand the truth. Humanity had not sent this ship as a gamble. They had sent it as a warning. A lone vessel that could erase armadas meant only one thing. Humanity was not weak and they were not alone. If this was one ship, then somewhere out there was a fleet that no galaxy could withstand. Panic consumed the enemy ranks. Some tried to flee, but their hyperdrives failed the moment they activated. Others attempted to ram the warship in desperation, but they never reached it. The ship's defenses tore them apart before they could even close distance. The battlefield fell into silence again, not because the fighting stopped, but because hope was gone. Every alien knew it now. They could not win. On the command bridge of the human warship, no voices were heard. Its crew remained unseen, its origin unknown. Some aliens began to wonder if there were even humans inside at all. Perhaps it was controlled by something greater, a machine intelligence, an ancient weapon awakened after centuries of sleep. But one thing was certain: humanity had unveiled its hand. The galaxy would never look at them the same again. The alien. Armadas had never known true fear, until now. Entire fleets were collapsing, their proud battleships reduced to dust, their strongest weapons useless against the human warship. The battlefield was filled with broken metal, drifting wreckage, and desperate signals for retreat. Yet despite the carnage, the lone human ship stood untouched, glowing in the dark like a silent executioner. But the empires were not ready to surrender. Pride and desperation fueled them. Their leaders, watching from distant command stations, screamed into the comms, "Do not falter. Throw everything you have. That ship cannot fight forever." So the order was given. Every remaining vessel was to attack at once. Thousands of warships surged forward in a tidal wave of firepower. Dreadnoughts unleashed their heaviest cannons. Carriers launched endless swarms of fighters. Cruisers filled the void with torpedoes and plasma storms. The combined power of half a galaxy was aimed at a single target. For a brief moment, the void was brighter than a star. But the human warship did not run. It did not hide. Instead, it accelerated straight into the heart of the enemy armada. Its engines screamed with unnatural force, bending space itself as it moved. Alien ships tried to close ranks to block its advance, but the vessel cut through them like a blade through glass. The first wave of enemy fire struck, and was simply absorbed. Shields that no alien could understand shimmered across its hull, bending light, deflecting missiles, dissolving plasma into harmless sparks. The second wave was met with counterattack. The warship released a storm of weapons, dark matter projectiles, beams of folding light, arcs of lightning that chained from one ship to another. Whole squadrons vanished in seconds. Still, the aliens pressed forward. For every 100 ships destroyed, more came charging in, willing to sacrifice themselves, just to damage the vessel. Fighters swarmed like insects, diving at the warship's hull in suicide runs. Battleships tried to ram it head-on, their massive frames burning as they pushed engines beyond safe limits. The sky itself seemed to collapse into fire and smoke, and then for the first time the human ship slowed. Sensors across the alien fleets lit up with hope. Perhaps the vessel had finally reached its limit. Perhaps its power had cost too much. The admirals screamed for their ships to close in. But they were wrong. The warship wasn't weakening. It was preparing. Its black armor shifted again, peeling, open to reveal weapons never seen before. Great rings of energy unfolded around its body, spinning faster and faster until they glowed like miniature suns. The ship's engines flared, brighter than ever, and then silence. For a heartbeat, the battlefield froze. Every weapon stopped firing. Every voice fell quiet, as though the galaxy itself was holding its breath. And then the storm came. The human warship unleashed a wave of pure force that shattered everything in its path. Alien ships were ripped apart without a shot fired, their hulls crumpling as gravity twisted around them. Fighters were swept away like dust in a hurricane. Even the mighty dreadnoughts cracked open, their reactors imploding as the wave tore through their cores. Entire fleets disappeared in seconds. The survivors watched in horror as the impossible unfolded before their eyes. The ship was not just destroying them. It was rewriting the rules of battle. Weapons and shields meant nothing. Numbers meant nothing. Strategy meant nothing. Against this one vessel, the galaxy's greatest militaries were powerless. Still, even as despair spread, some commanders fought on. They had no choice. To retreat was to admit defeat, and defeat meant the fall of their empires. So they pushed forward again, screaming for their crews to fire until their weapons overheated, to fight until their ships burned. The human warship met them with silence. It did not gloat. It did not threaten. It simply moved forward, destroying all who stood in its way. Each strike was flawless, each maneuver precise as though the ship itself was alive, an apex predator moving through prey that never stood a chance. And as the last great formation broke apart, the truth became undeniable. The turning point had arrived. This battle was no longer a fight between equals. It was an execution. The galaxy would never forget this day. One human warship had faced thousands, and it had not just survived, it had conquered. And somewhere, in the silence that followed, a terrifying question spread from ship to ship, mind to mind. If this is what one human warship can do, what happens when the others arrive? The battlefield was silent. Wreckage drifted in endless darkness, glowing faintly from burning cores and shattered reactors. Entire fleets, once proud symbols of galactic power, were now reduced to scattered fragments. Thousands of ships had been erased, and still the human warship remained. Untouched, unbroken, alone in the void. Survivors clung to their crippled vessels, staring at the black silhouette that hovered at the center of destruction. It did not chase them. It did not finish them off. It simply stood there, glowing faintly with its strange light, as though it had already decided the fight was over. No one spoke at first. The comm channels were empty, the usual noise of war replaced by an eerie silence. It was as if the stars themselves were holding their breath, waiting to see what the human warship would do next. On distant worlds, billions watched the battle unfold through hidden relay stations. Entire civilizations stared at their screens in disbelief. The empires that had promised security, the armadas that had boasted of dominance, shattered in a single engagement against one ship. Crowds whispered the same question. If this is one, how many more exist? In the war rooms of the galaxy's rulers, fear turned into dread. Some leaders screamed at their advisors to hide the truth, to silence broadcasts before panic spread. Others demanded negotiations, desperate to open channels with humanity before it was too late. But the truth was already out. Across the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity was not to be ignored. On the battlefield, the alien survivors finally received a transmission. It was not a threat. It was not a demand. It was a simple phrase in a voice that echoed with calm certainty. This is only the beginning. Then the warship turned. Its engines flared with blinding light, and with a single burst of speed, it vanished into the void. No pursuit was possible, no trace remained, only silence and ruins. The galaxy was never the same again. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the ship was a prototype, humanity's first true star destroyer. Others claimed it was no human at all but an ancient machine carrying the vengeance of Earth's lost ancestors. A few whispered that there was not just one ship, but an entire fleet hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. The survivors who had seen the battle firsthand carried the memory in their eyes. They had faced a predator beyond anything they had ever imagined. They had seen empires collapse in hours, and they knew the truth even if others denied it. If humanity wanted war, the galaxy would not survive. And yet, the human warship did not conquer. It did not seize territory. It did not demand tribute. It came, it destroyed, and it left. That silence was perhaps the most terrifying part of all. For what was its purpose? Was it a warning, a test, or merely the opening move of something far greater? Across the stars, nations that had once mocked humanity now whispered in fear. Old enemies paused their wars, no longer sure if fighting each other mattered when a greater force loomed in the darkness. Alliances were shaken, treaties broken, and new strategies formed, all centered on one question. What do the humans truly want? The answer never came. The humans remained silent, their fleets unseen, their intentions hidden. Only one fact remained, certain. The galaxy had underestimated them for the last time. From that day forward, stories were told in hushed voices. Tales of the lone warship that entered battle and silenced the stars. A legend born not from myth, but from fear. And every child growing up in the galaxy learned the same lesson: never provoke humanity. Because if one ship could shatter empires, then the day humanity decided to bring them all would be the day the galaxy ended.